Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/ironsysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/ironsysadmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/ironsysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/ironsysadmin. And thank you. news, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's episode of the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. I'm your host, Nate, and I'm joined tonight by... I'm going to pick one instead of making you guys fight. I'm joined by Jason. Say hi.
That's me.
Say
hi.
And Marc.
Hi.
There she blows! It's a right whale!
Marc,
Anyway.
who was playing us sea shanties to try to get me to put the show live, so you guys can all thank Marc.
And it didn't work. I had to actually resort to the EDM mix of Wagon Wheel, which is about as scary as it sounds.
I still couldn't really hear that. Maybe I shouldn't. I totally heard it. It was just as terrible as you said it was. Don't play it again.
Oh, no, I'm going to find a link for people. Let's see. Wagon Wheel video dance mix. I will find it.
Now it's a mission.
This
That's
is
a
like
mission for Marc.
a form of ransomware, making you listen to bad music to try and make you go live.
Isn't it though? Isn't it though? So have you guys heard news about some kind of cyber threat in the U.S. from Russia and like people putting gasoline in grocery bags?
Oh, hell yeah.
It's totally a real thing, right?
Awesome sauce.
Right. So in case you guys couldn't guess, we're going to talk today about ransomware, and that's totally not a topical thing because it's like a really big deal at the moment in the U.S.
Can I just one quick side note?
Sure.
Don't put gasoline in garbage bags and like, Walmart bags and stuff. That's dangerous, you moron.
I thought it was grocery bags, not garbage bags.
Bags in general. Gasoline should not go in bags.
I also think
they make gas containers.
They make gas. Well, obviously, if there's a gas shortage, you can't just go get a gas container, can you?
But there,
yeah.
Aye.
Also, by the way,
don't ruin my argument.
Gas goes bad over time, so
Yes, it does.
have fun hoarding all that gasoline.
So the first thing I want to say, well, yeah, I mean, gas will stay in a container for a long time, but it's the octane goes down and down and down the older it gets, which is why things like stable exist. So if you're gonna hoard gas, hoard gas stabilizer.
Just don't.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't be hoarding the gas because it's really not smart. Anyway, the thing with the grocery bags full of gas. Anybody with like longer than a 6-minute memory span can remember that exact same meme going around about a year and a half ago at the beginning of COVID. So I don't think, I mean, maybe there's somebody putting gasoline in bags, but they did it also back then. So I don't know why it's a big deal now.
Oh, honestly, that's the first time I've ever seen that. So if it happened prior to that, and that's not a real thing that just happened like last week, then
now,
oops.
I'm not saying
don't do it.
I'm not saying it's impossible that people are doing it now because they saw it then and thought it was a great idea.
Now,
the grocery bags hold my groceries. Why wouldn't they hold gasoline, right?
Aye.
Because, that makes a lot of sense. So anyway, I put a couple news articles in the show notes in case you guys aren't familiar with what's going on at the moment, even though it's all over the media, and it's all over news, it's all over social media, it's all over pretty much everything, there's apparently, what was it, Colonial Pipelines, right? That's
Colonial Pipeline.
Colonial Pipeline, which is not, from what I understand, is not the name of the pipeline, which is what I thought it was. It's the name of the company that operates the pipeline.
Right.
Because that's not confusing. They were apparently attacked, or I guess attacked is the right word. They somehow got ransomware into their systems. Now, from what I can understand, so I heard some initial reports that said that ransomware got in through something like their email system, and those systems having been ransomwared, somehow got into the control systems for the pipeline. Now, thinking about what I know about control systems of things, that seems unlikely. Anybody want to comment there?
Well, okay, so I can actually answer this based on the various different figures that I followed who I would trust to give me the right information.
Yeah, so what I did before the show
no
is
research on the actual technical details.
I tried to find like a write-up, but unfortunately I didn't start doing that till this morning, and then, I had to also work, so I didn't get a chance to really find the details. So if you have details, then please share.
Yeah, so first of all, the pipeline, so yes, they got ransomware. The ransomware did not hit the SCADA systems. It did not affect the pipeline directly. There was never a breach of the systems that control Colonial pipeline.
Right.
There's that's, the ransomware actually did not directly cause the pipeline to be shut down.
Right.
Um,
Which is where I was going next.
Yeah, what has actually come out today is that the pipeline was shut down by Colonial Pipeline on purpose.
Right.
Because they didn't know how they were going to charge the people who were getting feeds from the pipeline because their software was all locked. Yes.
Oh,
I can believe that totally.
See, the information I saw was that they shut down the pipeline in order to basically prevent further damage. I guess that further damage is they can't bill people.
Yeah, damage to their bottom line.
Yeah,
Screw everybody who now is paying more for gas because of the opportunistic price raising.
Right. Yeah, well, hey, it's win-win. I don't know how Colonial's system is set up, specifically. That said, a lot of these systems that are SCADA systems they're effectively air gapped. So ransomware couldn't get. I mean, there's almost nothing on them theoretically.
I was going to say, so even
anyway,
but from my perspective, even if your control system is plugged directly into the Windows PC you're checking email on, it would have to be a pretty targeted ransomware to directly impact the control system for the pipeline.
Yeah, ransomware.
Like that's not an x86 Windows box.
Right. So ransomware in general doesn't. It's not like ransomware gets into your machine and then just, encrypts everything on the box. That's not necessarily how this works. A lot of them are targeted to encrypt certain parts of the system, because if they encrypt the entire box, you don't have an OS anymore.
Right.
And
which means they can't ask for a ransom.
Right. Newer OSs will basically block that anyway, because you're trying to erase the operating system underneath the operating system, and it's just going to say like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Nope.
So even Windows prevents that.
Right. And even more so, if you erase the OS, you're sort of taking down all of that infrastructure that's sitting there for you to exfiltrate all that data.
Yeah.
Now your ransomware will have to run network drivers and, kernels and all,
Yeah, right.
Why?
If all that stuff exists already, why reinvent the wheel?
So,
plus, then
ransomware,
you'll have to keep your ransomware OS security patched and up to date, and that's just nobody wants that overhead.
Right. So typically what a ransomware will do is, and I don't know how they're built exactly, but they avoid specifically directories that are part of the operating system. Now, whether that means that they just encrypt everything else, honestly, if I was writing it, that's probably how I would go. Or if they're specifically targeting things that are documents and user directories. But given that ransomware often jumps to shared drives as well and takes those over, I'm guessing the whitelist is more on the OS side than anything. So it's probably like, don't touch the Windows and the system directories and don't touch the program files. Everything else is game. Have fun.
Does that mean that I should just put all of my sensitive data inside of C Windows?
Yes.
Then it's all safe. Solved. We're done. Show's over, guys.
So that was apparently this was reported on May 6th. Whether or not it started earlier, I don't know, but that's when it was reported.
Right.
So they stole like 100 gig of data, locked the machines down, and started demanding payment.
100 gig. That sounds like nothing.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess it really depends on what the 100 gig is, right?
I have more ROMs than that on my emulator.
And then this is a little bit murky, but allegedly they did pay $5 million in ransom fees to get the decryption keys.
Did they? Okay. The
Yeah, that
reports I
happened.
read had kept saying they weren't going to pay.
Yeah, and that they paid it on May 7th, so it was the next day. So according to
We're
Bloomberg,
totally not going to pay unless you notice
right,
that we paid, and then we're going
right,
to admit to
exactly.
paying.
So they shut down they shut everything down and took care of
Listen,
paying the ransom.
if anyone deserves to pay the penance for ransomware, it's oil. If
Right.
you ask me.
They're not going to really pay though, because like I said, they stopped shipping the fuel. They've now jacked the price up, so they're probably just gonna charge extra to cover the cost.
Yeah, that 5 million is that's pocket change. They're going to make 5 million more just in, the amount of money that they're making now, and when the pipeline wasn't even running, they sold out gas all over the place. So
Yeah.
it appears that basically all the time between last Thursday and today has been spent people jumping up and down and blah 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 and all sorts of crap about what's going on left, right, and sideways. In the meantime, they have been in the background trying to restore the systems.
Yeah.
According to, it's not in this write up, but this was online what I saw today. They had paid that 5 million to get the decryption key, and then ended up restoring from backups because turns out the decryption routines inside of whatever ransomware this is super duper slow, and
Nice.
they opted to go from backups. Now
It's meant to encrypt fast, not decrypt fast.
right. That is being
They're
questioned. I don't know that that's an official thing yet, and the report is being questioned because the advice of every single security person that I've ever met is those machines are now compromised. Nuke them from orbit and start over.
Yeah.
So you should have been restoring from backups to begin with. Stop. You shouldn't be paying to decrypt things because
Yeah, I mean,
you don't know what's on there
everything.
now.
I don't know what kind of evidence we have that they paid. Like, did they admit to paying?
Well, let's see. So the report came out today from Bloomberg. That I can't see because there's a goddamn paywall.
I love paywalls.
Uh,
So, I
let's
mean,
see if I can
everything I
find another
read
one.
earlier today was that they were not going to pay and that they were restoring from backup. But, that's only like 2 articles that I found about it, and one of which is included in the notes here from the show. But my goal for tonight's show was basically to surround a conversation about ransomware with this particular incident, right? So
right. So
we've
yeah, like
we've
what
talked
do you
about
do?
yeah we've talked about ransomware in the past, right? And I think it's just worth sort of reiterating since it's on everybody's mind at the moment. So, Mark, you were asking, what do you do? Like, what do you do? What to prevent it?
Well, so you prevent it by I would assume you prevent it by doing the same steps that if you're not a moron, you've been doing all along. You do your due diligence on setting up your machines as securely as possible. If it's your personal machine, you understand that Amazon and Apple are not constantly locking your account and clicking on that button to unlock your account in the misspelled email is a bad idea,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Two-factor authentication across the board. I love my middle daughter because she was telling me a story a few weeks ago about how she was setting up a new account. And she's like, Dad, I remember you told me always use two-factor authentication. So she did, you know, so that your
Good.
passwords and stuff can't be compromised as easily, right? Take the steps so that hopefully you're in the situation. If you do end up with ransomware landing on your system, I was actually thinking about that a little yesterday. Um, I have a fair amount of stuff that is backed up either, well, some of the stuff is two-stage backup. Like it backs up to my NAS and the critical stuff I sync up to the cloud. So it's a two-step backup. So if something
Right.
were to become compromised, I've got multiple layers of recovery.
Right.
But, you know, I guess I come from the old school of you don't negotiate with terrorists. So if my machine was encrypted, I would curse and then I would nuke it and rebuild it. But, what
So
do you yeah,
the
that's
first
my take.
the first step in surviving a ransomware issue is to not get ransomware, right? So some of the stuff that you mentioned is absolutely viable, right? Be careful what you click on. Generally, ransomware is sort of like an old school virus. You end up with an executable of some sort, you run it on your machine, it encrypts your data. Now, obviously, that's not always just as straightforward as you downloaded a creepy attachment from an email and you ran it like a moron. There could be things that are running automatically in certain ways. There's lots of ways for people to make that stuff happen. There used to be a utility made by Cyber Reason that was meant to detect a encryption task running on your machine, right? I've tried to look for that recently, and it seems like they don't offer it. It used to be a free tool. You could download it, you could install it on your machine.
You're a tool.
Does not appear to be free anymore. I think they still offer the product, but it's not free. So if anybody watching or listening has a suggestion for another tool that does that for free, that would be a great thing that we can share with our...
What OS?
So that was specifically for Windows, the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I don't know about Mac or Linux for that matter.
Actually, I do know about Mac. There's a guy by the name of Patrick Wardle who writes a ton of free Mac utilities under a Patreon, which is really kind of cool.
That's cool.
Anyway, he has a tool called Block.
Block. Okay.
Yep. And basically, what it does is whenever something, so it has a big allow list of known good binaries, and it uses code signing and all sorts of stuff to figure that out. But it if something tries to access data on your drive and it is not in that allow list, it pops up a note, kind of like an antivirus does, and says, "Hey, this thing's trying to do something to this file. Are you going to let that happen?" And you can tell it to, you have a choice, like, go ahead forever, go ahead just for this time, etc.
That's pretty much what Ransom Free did. I managed to still have a copy of the installer, but at this point it's ancient, right? So I don't know if it's really any good anymore or not. But the theory is sound. What it does is it runs in the background. It has a bunch of like canary files all over the place in places where you would traditionally see ransomware encrypting your data, like your users, your documents, your D drive, right? If you have a separate drive where you might be storing data, it puts these little files everywhere, and it sorts them. It puts them in there so that they would end up at the top or bottom of the list alphabetically. Now, if a ransomware were to start in the middle of the list, obviously that could get around that. If it were to somehow find a way to detect these files, it would also get around that. But basically, if it sees one of those things get hit, whether it's deleted or touched or whatever, because nothing should be touching them, it sends you an alert and it stops that process from running until you say yes or no, right? So, it's a valid approach, I think. There may be better, more sophisticated ways to detect encryption algorithms or something. I don't know, but I thought it was a nice tool, and it's kind of a shame they don't offer it for free anymore. But I get it. They're in the business of making money, right?
Yeah. Xfence was another one that was out there for Mac that did this.
Yeah.
Which also used to be free, but F-Secure gobbled that up, and it has been in their beta products for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now. I run them, and it works great, and it's probably the first. Technically, it's an antivirus, I think.
Yeah,
as well.
F-Secure.
And it's the first one that I've run that hasn't slowed my computer to a crawl.
Man, F-Secure has been around forever. They've been around as long as Norton. I remember them from back in like the 90s. Norton may be older, but not by much. At least at the current scale, right?
I resisted for a while because I just all I wanted was Xfence. I don't want the antivirus crap because I don't think I need it. What I do with my machine between Xfence and Little Snitch, that basically is an antivirus.
You're on a Mac. There's no viruses on Mac.
Yeah, there are. But since they wrapped it into this new product and they're not supporting the old beta anymore, I sort of succumbed to jumping over, and it's been working really well. So I'm happy with it.
Yeah, that's always good.
I wish they would release it.
It
would be nice.
On my Windows machine, I've just decided to hopefully depend on Windows Defender, which there are several security professionals which say Windows Defender is as good as any other antivirus. And there it is,
better,
right?
Better.
Yeah. I don't know.
I would argue it's much better because it's basically zero hit.
Okay. So I don't know if it also protects against ransomware. If anybody knows that, please let me know. But
I'm not sure of.
Kind of curious at this point if it does or not. But yeah, so those are some options to protect your Windows or Mac Mac machines. Whenever I say Mac machines, I just think of the automated teller machines. Anyway, Mac laptops or desktops.
Those run Windows.
Yeah, right. And did they get ransomware? Maybe.
I don't know. So the one thing that I will, and I know this goes back to the original beginning of this whole rant. The one thing I'll push back on a little bit is that anybody can get. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're doing all the right things. It is entirely possible to get ransomware.
Oh yeah, no one's immune.
No.
Yeah,
no one's immune.
Yeah.
If somebody is targeting you, not anybody can do it, but if somebody is targeting you, and they are skilled at all, they will eventually get through. You will not stop them. They will eventually get through.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're a large enough organization that has a number of employees,
Yeah.
right? All it takes is one employee to mess up. And I shouldn't even say mess up.
Yeah.
All it takes is for one employee to be convinced by the attacker. That doesn't necessarily mean they've done anything wrong. It just means that they fell for it. It doesn't mean that they're any, less of a person than everybody else.
And
because these people are skilled at social engineering. Like if it's a really directed attack, they're going to find that person that just is trying to help or trying to do their job or trying to do what they think is right. And then they end up costing the company a ridiculous amount of money.
And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a specific employee that has clicked on something, because 0 days happen.
Mm-hmm.
They happen all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't there one 2-3 years ago that was propagating, like in the old worm days? Remember how you'd have a Windows machine and all it would do is spread viruses? What was that called again? Petya, not Petya?
Not Petya. Well, not Petya was a but that was ended up being that ransomware stuff. That was using the blue.
That was a SIFS, whatever. That was a SIFS propagated worm.
Yes.
Ransomware is relatively new, though, right?
Last 5 years or so.
Relatively speaking, because it used to be viruses that would just do damage.
I can recall ransomware from maybe 10 years ago, but it really picked up steam when these different hacking groups have figured out that they can actually make a ridiculous amount of money, right? And actually, in the article I was reading about this particular attack on Colonial is this Shadow Group or Shadows or Shadow whatever they were called, the group that claimed the attack. They're basically one of these groups that has created a tool set and sells usage of that tool set and infrastructure to
DarkSide.
DarkSide, that's it. To other individuals who want to attack, whatever, right? So now all you need is a wallet, right, to go and attack people using other people's tools, and that's what happened here, right? So hacking, breaking into people's systems, being criminals like this has now become an actual business model, right? So it's all funded, or I should say, it's all that's what I'm looking for. It all circles around money, right? Not just the ransom, but ransomware as a service, right? So
ransomware as a service.
That's what they call it, man.
That is a thing.
Ransomware as a service. Like
ransomware as a service, DDoS as a service.
Yeah. It's like imagine
there's a lot of them.
Imagine if you logged into your AWS console and in the menu of items on the side was ransomware. That's what this is like. You just click thing and say, "Here's my target. Go."
I have not seen them in on my screen, but I am told that some of the darknet sites are actually configured to look like AWS specifically for this purpose.
To make it easier for you to just pick the pain you want to wrought on people. Let's see. Today it's ransomware. Bing, go. Here's the IP range. That's hilarious. What's really funny is Mark, I don't know if you have read any of Cory Doctorow's books, but
Which
Get
one
on
is
it.
he?
Start reading.
why am I blanking on the name? The first book.
The first book.
Not well. Not, you know the book I'm talking
I've never
about.
read the first book.
Big Brother or Little Brother? Rather?
Little Brother.
Okay.
At the beginning
Haven't
of Little
read it.
Brother, right? At the beginning of Little Brother, it's basically set in high school, right?
Yeah.
Because the main character is a high school student or high school aged, and he's talking about how students will attack each other via botnets from their phone, right? They'll just pop open their phone and they'll do a thing to wreak havoc on other students, right? And it's like, now that's a real thing. It may have been a real thing then, or maybe he was just predicting. I don't know. But yeah, it's like,
Huh.
it's literally all you need is a way to pay for it, and you can DDoS somebody, or that's what the example in the book was. But now you can ransomware people by simply knowing a target and having the money to do it.
The
They're up
students
to,
attacking each other. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, they're up to book 3 in that series, by the way.
I haven't read book 3 yet. Book 2 is pretty good though.
Yeah, I have to read 2 and 3. I have them. I just haven't read them yet.
2 was pretty good.
Yeah. So that general concept reminds me of when I worked back in the 90s at Micro Warehouse, and I worked in I was a telephone support person first for the Mac, but then I was I pivoted over to the Windows side just because I knew all the technologies at that point. And me and my buddy Al, he worked mornings and I worked later in the day, and we shared a workstation. And so we had this little contest where before ending our shift, one of us would totally break the machine. The only rule was you couldn't delete anything that you needed to restore from a disk or anything. So it was Windows 3.1. So we would do things like change the files so that instead of loading the window manager, it would load solitaire or, stuff like that.
I
And
remember
it
those
was
tricks.
a contest of how bad could you muck it up for the other guy and how long would it take him to fix it so he could get to work. And we have fun
Gosh.
with that.
You just brought back such a memory, and maybe we'll have to save this for a show about war stories. But I once had a phone call in tech support. I was doing ISP tech support at the time, so this is completely unrelated, but I wanted to help the customer out. They had accidentally deleted Explorer on their Windows 95 machine. So
Not Internet Explorer.
no,
Regular
Explorer,
file
like the thing that makes the start menu, the thing that your shell essentially.
It's pretty important.
Yeah, I walked them through switching back to Program Manager so that they could get back into their machine and recover their stuff.
That's great.
Which was completely outside of the scope of things I was supposed to do, and I probably got yelled at for it, but
What can you do?
I helped somebody out. I felt better about it. Anyway, speaking of helping people out, so we talked about what you can do to help prevent ransomware, and again, the caveat there is it's really hard to prevent ransomware if you're being targeted by a specific enough attacker, right, or a specific enough threat. If they're crafting a threat for you, there's a good chance they're eventually going to get in. The average user, it's usually just, I made a mistake, I installed a program I shouldn't have, I clicked on that link in that email I shouldn't have. There's not usually someone that's going to attack you individually the way they do large corporations, unless you're some sort of an industry mogul or something that has a ton of money or some data they want. But just average Joe, I mean, if you get ransomware, it was bad luck, right?
Yeah.
So what to do if you have been hit by ransomware? I'm going to tell you that there are some circumstances where you can recover from ransomware. There are cases where certain tools, the keys have been leaked or the keys have been recovered by security researchers, and you may actually be able to recover from, a ransomware attack. You shouldn't depend on that. You shouldn't count on that. Now, I kind of like, especially as a sysadmin, right? You start to learn to live on your own skill, and you start to think, whatever bad comes my way, I'm going to find a way to solve it. Ransomware is one of those that you really can't just depend on your own grit, because it's encryption. Unless it's really crappy encryption, you're not just going to hack your way through it. You're not just going to mash the keys until
Can't
you get
type really fast?
the encryption key,
that'll
right?
work?
This isn't Hollywood. So again, aside from those few that have been broken, the few that have had keys released, and maybe you'll luck out, and that's the one you'll get hit with. If you get hit, you're probably not going to get your data back unless you pay the ransom, right? Because that's just the way it works. So the obvious way to protect against that is to make sure you have backups. And, those backups need to be something that is unreachable by your machine under normal operation, right? So Jason, what happens if I have all my backups on this external drive that's on my desk that's always plugged into my laptop?
Oh, that gets ransomware too.
Yeah. What happens if I just have them on Google Drive that's also mapped to my laptop so that I can access my Google Drive data all the time?
Actually, I'm not sure about Google, but I know that if you have something like Box or Dropbox, actually, I'm not sure of Dropbox, but Box, I'm 99% certain that even if you had a drive mapped to Box and it ransomwared it, you would still be okay because Box versions everything that you put up there.
Yeah, Google Drive does too, and we explored this when we were talking about Google Drive at my last job. And yes, it's got versions of all your files. How do you restore versions?
Manually, one by one.
File by file by file by file by file.
Yes.
So if you have 20 gig of files on Google Drive, like I do, that's going to be a pain in the ass.
No, that's what interns are for.
Yeah, right. You pay the interns to go back and
Wait, I'm sorry. You're paying interns? Restore. I'm kidding. Pay your interns. Seriously. That was a joke.
Right.
Yes.
I thought they were doing it for exposure.
Assume
doing
anything.
It for exposure.
Interns shouldn't expose themselves at work.
That's a trip to HR.
Anything connected to your machine is most likely compromised. But what's worse now, because the ransomware people have also been evolving because that's what criminals do. Hey, I have all my stuff backed up. I don't need to pay this fine or this ransom. I'm just going to nuke everything and restore it. What's the first thing that these guys did when they popped Colonial and put the ransomware out there? I'm sorry. I shouldn't even say pop Colonial.
Apparently they paid the ransom.
Not what did Colonial do?
Oh, what did
whoever ran the ransomware? What was the first thing they did?
I don't know. What's the first thing they did?
They exfiltrated 100 gig of data.
Oh yeah, right.
So one of the big trends in ransomware now is they're getting more so into. It's not just I've tied up your data and you have to pay me to get the keys.
It's I have your data.
I have your data. I've tied it up and you need to pay me to get the keys so that you can untie it on your end. Oh, by the way, if you decide that you're just going to restore from backup, I'm going to release this data. And I think at least one case, I'm positive at least one case, I don't remember who it was, but there's been at least one case where they released the data.
Yeah.
Or at least portions of the data.
Yeah, so I mean, assuming now there are cases that I've heard of where the ransomware decryption actually doesn't even work, right? Like they don't even have a way to decrypt it. So in those cases,
well, then you got to open a support ticket with the ransom people.
You laugh, but that's the sort of thing that businesses are like, okay, this is now a business transaction. I've paid you. You haven't delivered on your end. What have you done to your 3D printer?
I don't know. I'm trying to auto level it. Oh.
It's not working.
Thank you, genius.
It sounds like an air compressor when you turn it on.
Yeah, it was slamming against the left side. Let's try this again. I power cycled it and we're going to tell it to auto level.
Right back it goes.
It disagrees.
It's like, nope, unplug it.
Great.
I wonder if the switch isn't making contact.
That's got to be it. Anyway, what was I saying again? Oh, right. So,
blah, blah, blah.
So yeah, people have legitimately tried to decrypt the data, can't, and then they try to contact, the shadow brokers or whoever for like tech support, and in some cases they even offer it. Right? This is now a business transaction, and they actually try to help these people get the decryption done. In other cases, they just ghost and say, "We've got your $5 million. Goodbye. What are you going to do? We're already criminals." Right?
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now the other side of that
negotiate
coin,
with terrorists.
Right. Well, so the other side of that coin is if they don't make good on the promise and that word gets out there, it's just like if you are a business, right? And you're ripping off your customers. people start to talk about that, your reputation gets destroyed. Even though you are criminals, right? This is still a business contract. If people know that you're not going to decrypt their data, you're not going to pay them. Right? So
and furthermore, what's actually happening in the underground community is those that are not following the contract being, if you pay me, I'll give you your data back. They're finding that they're being gone after or taken over by other attackers. So the market is correcting itself, if you will.
Wow, that's awesome. That's what that is a whole new definition to hostile takeover.
But yeah,
or maybe it's the original definition to hostile takeover.
Maybe, but it's the whole, like honor among thieves, I guess.
Right.
If we're gonna make a business of this, and you're gonna
will not sully the name of criminals.
Exactly. And they have to make sure that if they're gonna say, I will give you your data back if you pay me, 10 Bitcoin or whatever the, a billion Doge or whatever the numbers are now, then that has to happen. Otherwise, nobody's going to listen to it.
Right. Otherwise, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, you can't pay the ransom because you'll never get your data." Right. They're trying to make a legitimate business out of being criminals, and if you make that look illegitimate, even though it is illegitimate, it's a weird line, right?
And yet, never ever trust it. Period.
Yeah.
You should be backing stuff up.
Yeah.
Even if they gave you the keys and they gave you the source code and everything else, and you could verify 100%, you should really be nuking those machines and restoring them from known good backups.
Yeah. Now
so start now.
Mark's about to see if this stops.
Mark's about to throw his printer out the window.
No, it's fine.
This is fine.
It's proceeding.
Sips coffee.
This is fine.
Burning room.
Now it's just start going again.
It's gonna do it on the other side of the printer now. That's awesome. Anyway, right. So how, again, we could do a whole episode on good backups, but high level, what's the best, or I should say, what are good ways for the average home user to back up their data? Oh, I've got a visitor. Are you looking?
The 3-2-1 rule is usually the answer. 3 backups, 2 different mediums, 1 alternate location, I think is what it comes down to. Or three copies, 2 location, or 3 copies, 2 mediums, 1 location. So, you should have at least, like I back up to my external drive and I back up to, say, I don't know, whatever the latest hot backup system is out in the cloud. Now I've got 3 backups. I've got multiple different mediums. I've got local hard drives and I've got this remote thing, and I've got at least 1 location, which is that whatever that remote backup system is. The trick being that at least one of your backups should be something that is periodically backing up that you are not connected to. You can't access the files like a hard drive.
Right. So what I used to do is I had an external hard drive. I would back up my data to it periodically, like weekly. And then I would take that hard drive to work and keep it in my office. Right. Now, that doesn't follow the full 3-2-1 rule, but it does follow I have 2 copies and one of them is offsite.
Right.
Right. You're supposed to, it's 3 copies, right? 3-2-1, 3 copies.
3 copies, right. 3 copies, 2 mediums,
2 mediums,
one offsite.
1 offsite. Yeah. So I didn't quite follow the rule, but at least I had like the bare minimum, right? I had the data offsite, not connected to my machine. So if my machine were to get ransomware or, run over by a bus, it would be...
Which was more realistic.
Which was more realistic than ransomware?
Scenario.
Listen, if my laptop got ran over by a bus, it was probably in the backpack on my back. So it's not going to matter.
Next to the hard drive that you were taking to the office.
Right next to the hard drive I was taking to the office.
There was the Red Hat Christmas party. And I don't know if anybody's listening on this call who was at that, because it was way before your time. Oh my God, I sound old. Where the idiot coat check people didn't bother to check the tag, and they gave some other guy my bag.
Oh, that's nice.
Because he said, that's my black backpack. Well, here's the funny part: every single new hire at Red Hat got the same damn black backpack.
Yeah.
So it was. I was a little upset because
at least it was a coworker.
Yeah,
theoretically, that got your backpack.
It was. And what's funny is while I'm complaining to the guy that you didn't even have check the ticket, another guy walked out, pointed and said, "That's my bag." And the girl said, "Here you go," without checking the ticket. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's exactly what just happened.
I'm having this conversation right in front of you. Are you not listening?
Well, it was just a different employee.
Just like my kids.
Yeah. So my laptop, thankfully it was another Red Hatter and we managed to figure out who it was. We managed to figure out we each had each other's bag and I got it back. But so that completely validates the rule that we need to encrypt our hard drives.
Yep.
That's one of our rules. But yeah, I mean, thankfully my data was backed up in case my laptop, went away forever.
See,
anything local.
I solve that by generally when I have my laptop with me, it doesn't leave my site. It's next to me or on my back all the time.
Right, but this was a fancy Christmas party.
I get it.
And I didn't want to be lugging my backpack.
It would have been locked in my vehicle then. It wouldn't have been.
It was New York City. There was no vehicle. This was we went from the New York office to this really crowded venue.
There's your first problem. You don't party. You don't party in New York City.
No, I do. Party
you can. You can.
You don't bring a laptop.
You just have to have a rule that if you have your bag on your back, which I always have my bag on my back because I don't live in New York, so I had no place to put it. And you go into a place that's like, "I'm sorry, sir, you can't take your bag." Your answer is, "Cool, I'm out of here."
I'll go elsewhere. Yeah.
So no, my process improvement though has changed. Whenever we leave the office, even at a night thing, I leave my bag in the New York office because the New York office is right near the PATH station I go to anyway.
Yeah.
So I would have left my bag in the office and then picked it up on the way out. But that's how I'll do it from now on. The point was, it's not always ransomware. It can be anything, right? So that backup rule is a good one. And if I had my data copied to an external drive that I carried around in the bag, well,
yeah, right.
That would have done
me. That also needs to be encrypted.
Right.
When you're doing your backups, remember the important bit. If you back up encrypted data, your backups are now encrypted data. So make sure that you have multiple days of backups, just in case.
Oh yeah, right. In case you don't realize that you've been encrypted right away, or the data that was encrypted now got backed up to your backup area.
Yeah, if your machine gets encrypted at the end of the day and your backup routines happen overnight, it's entirely possible that if the ransomware hasn't broken your backup system, that you're going to back up bad data. One of the places I worked at, it wasn't ransomware, but they would do tape backups on a regular basis. Very, very rote tape backups. They would back them up and then they would put them in a car and they would drive them off site. And, they had this whole thing. One of the things they never did was test the tape backups.
Yeah.
Which was sort of a problem.
Yep.
But we had a large, very, very large file share, which happened to be NTFS file system that died somehow. And they didn't catch it, and they had backed it up.
Whoops.
And it was doing a
the backup was really quick today.
Well, the problem.
We must be doing something right.
It was doing a bit-by-bit backup. It wasn't doing a files on the file system backup.
Oh, more like a disk clone.
Yeah, and when it backed up the corrupted file system. And we since they never tested the backups, we ended up losing like half of the data on the drive, which
that sucks.
Consisted of
a lot of day.
No, that was a year's worth of white papers that I wrote that I never got back. I was not thrilled.
Oh Lord.
Is that one of those?
Nobody read them anyway. But
is that one of those resume updating events?
For somebody?
Maybe not for you. I don't know if that was.
I ended up working with you. I think. Well, you came after, but I ended up working where we worked together, like a couple months later. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's before I went to the college.
Okay. For some reason, I was picturing the place you went afterward, because that seemed like a thing that would have happened there.
No, not specifically a resume updating event. You know, I wasn't. It was a thing that happened. It was not my control.
Yeah.
I left there because I had actually, our mutual friend had tried to recruit me, I think 3 times to come to the college before I finally said yes. Because every time he asked, he's like, "Hey, I got a job for you." I'm like, "Yeah, I started a new job like last week. I'd be kind of a dick move.
I
if
can't
I
leave
now.
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
Like that happened to you and I like a month ago.
Yeah, and then yeah, exactly, and then like a year later or 2 years later, he came again and he was like, "Yeah, no, you definitely have to come on and hang out with us and come work there." And I was like, "Yeah, we just got bought out, and
it was such
I kind of want to see where it goes."
It was such a great place then.
It was.
I miss those days. Those were all. We'll have an episode about awesome things from our career in the past. Is it doing it again, Marc?
Where we talk cryptically about them.
Where we talk cryptically about all the awesome stuff that happened.
The alignment's completely farked up.
That's awesome.
It thinks the bet is lower than it is.
Oh.
That's
fun.
Or higher than it is. Because, when it was doing the alignment, it was behaving weird. I'm gonna run the alignment.
I was gonna say, isn't that what the sensor is for?
Yeah, well,
switches. It's not even sensors. You don't have a bed sensor on it, do you?
Yeah.
No, the problem
it has a bed sensor. The way you described it to me, it has a bed sensor.
The BL Touch.
The Z-axis sensor on that is very much like a BL Touch. I don't know if it's the same.
It's a little stick that points at. The problem was the plate
That's BL
was
Touch,
yeah. The plate was not positioned properly when it did the test. So on one cycle of the test, it thought the plate was much lower than it really is. So I think we're good now. I'm rerunning the auto tune.
3D printer troubleshooting on Iron Sysadmin podcast.
Right.
So anyway,
it's
live! I currently do my backups to Spider Oak, which happen automatically. They back up to a cloud provider, essentially. Spider Oak would be a cloud provider at this point, I suppose. But I really want to invest in an on-site NAS for a number of reasons. One of them is for local backup. The other is because I have a ton of media data from running a podcast for all these years and from running a YouTube channel for all these years. So that's on my list of things to do. Unfortunately, aside from Spider Oak, that is my backup solution. I don't have anything else going on except for that external backup drive, which literally does still exist, but it's mainly full of a bunch of video content that I don't have space to put anywhere else.
I have a Mac, so we don't have viruses and ransomware. So
yeah, you're fine.
I don't need
you don't
backups. I don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Seriously though, Time Machine is awesome.
Yeah, that's what I used when I was running Mac.
Let me caution people. Time Machine. So Time Machine there's a local Time Machine, and you can do it remotely to another drive. Of course, if you do it remotely to that other drive, you're connected to it. It's a network drive, and that can be ransomware as also.
Yep.
The Time Machine backup, or whatever you want to call it, is a file which can be encrypted.
Yeah.
Don't trust that as your backup.
Well, I mean, it could be your backup if it's on a drive that you disconnect.
Possibly, yeah. But Time Machine itself,
that's the way I did it. I had a physical external drive that when I plugged it in, the Mac would go, "Oh, I see my Time Machine drive. Would you like me to back up?"
Right.
And I'd say yes, and then I'd go to bed.
Right. Yeah, that would work as long as it's disconnected most of the time.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would disconnect it in the morning, and as long as I didn't get ransomware overnight, I was probably safe.
But ransomware. Time Machine doesn't have, at least I don't. If it does, I would very much like to know. Time Machine doesn't have a mechanism for connecting to a remote site, doing the backup, and then disconnecting.
Right.
Which, of course, is still fraught with problems if you happen to get ransomware while you're doing the backup.
I believe Duplicity on Linux can do that, where it connects, does its backup, and then disconnects. But I'm not certain. That was what I used when I ran primarily Linux as my desktop. At least until I started using Spider Oak. Because like I said, the local backup drive was great until I started working from home, and I no longer had an office to go put it in when, for my offsite backup. So Spider Oak was my solution for that. And then I just kind of fell out of doing the local backup. Anyway, I think we've covered things pretty well. Any other thoughts on ransomware, protecting yourself from it, or recovering from it?
If you get ransomware, report it.
How do you do that?
Good question. Actually, if you're a business, I think technically you could report. I mean, report it to your local authorities, so that they
friggin'
at least
I,
know.
man.
Yeah.
Yes, if you are the Joe Blow at 123 Pine Lane and you get ransomware, the local police department isn't going to care, but report it anyway, because this is information that should eventually make it up the chain, and something can be done about it. But if you are a business, make sure you report it, because there may actually be ways that the FBI or the authorities can help you in general. And in a lot of cases, if you've been ransomware, depending on what type of business you are legally bound by law to report that sort of thing. So just do it. Don't try to hide this. It's going to bite you.
And try to avoid paying the ransom if at all possible.
Yeah, it's not
backups.
Going to help you.
Yeah. I mean, it could help you in the moment, but in the long term, it's probably a bad idea.
Yeah, I guess it's possible, depending on how often your backups run, it's possible that maybe you can save some data that you would have lost otherwise. But
yeah, well, you're assuming they have a backup. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
If you can avoid it, and the way to avoid it is to have good backups,
right,
then don't pay the ransom. If you absolutely have to pay the ransom, it's gonna be, I don't even know. I don't want to say 50-50, because that implies that there's actually odds in this that I know. I don't. There's a chance you still won't get your data back, and you just waste a bunch of money.
So the other thing I'll mention, and I don't want to bash Colonial, because again, anybody can get attacked. It doesn't matter who you are. And I don't know what their internal processes are. I don't know exactly what happened, but if you are a business, do yourself a favor, spend some time thinking about scenarios where you could lose access to systems. How do I, as a business, continue to run if I have lost all of my POS systems, or whatever? In the case of Colonial, that is, oh no, all of my electronic systems that do accounting have gone offline. Whatever will I do? How do I stay in business and continue to make money when that's down?
Without shutting off the pipeline.
Right, because
I mean,
ability
to bill aside, shutting down the pipeline has got to have major repercussions for them.
Right,
that can't have been an easy choice to be like.
Right, but it also has repercussions down the chain. I mean, if they're critical infrastructure, like take an electrical supply company, like a PPL or
the grid.
Edison, what is it? Edison, whatever the hell is in New York. The grid.
Jersey Central Flicker and Light.
Yep. So if they lose,
used to call it.
If they lose their systems, if they lose their systems, certain systems, they need to continue to produce electricity, because if they don't, people can quite literally die.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now I know, and he's a mutual friend of ours, but we have a friend that works at one of these electrical places, and they do have procedures for certain things like this. So
and they should, right? I mean, you need to have contingency plans, disaster recovery plans, if it were,
right. But I mean, look at Texas. When they had the cold snap, if you want to call it that, and the electrical grid went down. That's a problem. People died.
Yeah,
because of that.
They did. I'm sure they feel very bad about that.
I'm sure that they couldn't care less, because they made a ton of money off of it.
Oh, shut up. You're such a cynic. Somebody at the power company feels bad that little Johnny died.
Yeah, God, and yet they're still fighting to send out.
I hope there wasn't actually someone named Johnny that died, because I'd feel really bad about that.
Yeah, well, and yet those power companies were last time I heard, and I haven't heard in a while because it sort of fell out of the news cycle, but they were actually fighting to be allowed to send out their $6,000, $7,000, $12,000, $13,000 bills to people who had power for a day.
Yep.
So screw them. But yeah, I mean, in general, let's figure out what our contingency plans are, so that if something does happen, you're not bleeding money.
Right. A lot of companies have a disaster recovery plan. I was on the disaster recovery team at Marc. And we had multiple disasters that we would think about, but I got to tell you, ransomware was not one of them. Now, I left Merck in 2015, just as the ransomware stuff was starting to hit a little bit. And shortly after I left, there was a virus attack. I don't know if it was ransomware or not, but it took them out for months, like their IT stuff. I'm actually very glad I wasn't there when that happened. But yeah, it's so if you have DR exercises, if you have drills and stuff like that, if you have disaster recovery plans, being ransomware should be one of those contingencies. And how is my let's make sure we have a process we follow if it happens to us. Be prepared.
And people hate these exercises because they
suck.
Some of them are a little bit over the top. But you can have some fun with them too. What if zombies invade?
Yeah, the card game,
the zombie apocalypse, because you can actually, you can call it the zombie apocalypse, but make it a real world scenario and just call your bad actors zombies,
Yeah,
right. Exactly. And then it becomes a fun thing that people really get into.
Yeah.
So gamify it a little.
Yep.
But I think just being prepared can be a big part of it. And
yeah,
obviously I'm partial to that because Scouts, that's our motto. But
you'd almost call it a motto.
What's a motto?
What's a motto?
Nothing. What's a motto to you?
Yeah, right.
Oh, I feel dirty now.
Because you responded to that?
I could have done. What a wonderful phrase.
Oh, add that to the... We need a bingo card of all of the Disney movies that Marc has sang to. This would be a new one. I think it's the first time I've heard you sing from The Lion King.
It's our motto. That's in the song.
I know that. I get it.
Has he done Lilo and Stitch yet?
I don't really know any of the tunes from Lilo and Stitch,
songs?
although my kids watched the hell out of that when they were young.
Are there songs in Lilo and Stitch?
There are songs, but some of them...
there are.
Yeah, there are songs, but none that I particularly remember to sing.
See, now you have a challenge.
All right.
So yes, anybody I see in the chat is going by, JScar has provided a link to the Backdoors and Breaches card game from Black Hills InfoSec. That's the card game that I held up to anyone watching the stream. But it's a tabletop exercise. It's a card game around tabletop exercises. And we need to get together. We need to get together and play it sometime. I have the deck. We've never played it.
When this pandemic BS is over, we can play it in New York.
Right. But Jason, I mean, unless we're going to bring him to the Red Hat building in New York.
He can come to the users group meeting.
There you go.
He's John Q. Public.
You've got two of them. Man. Jason's always got to one-up the other.
What does your sweatshirt say there, Jason?
It's probably not appropriate.
It says punch your local Nazi. That's appropriate.
I think we had a world war that decided that is appropriate.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
Good.
That's appropriate. Good. I say, as the host of Iron Sysadmin, that promoting punching your local Nazi is totally appropriate for this show.
We literally fought a war that determined being a Nazi is bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
The whole world agreed.
Good. All right. I've been wearing it all day, including in meetings at work, and it's come up a couple times. So,
well, it says punch right at the top, so everyone has to know what the rest of it says. Punch your local. Punch your local what? Pizza shop? No.
And I got to be honest, Jason, I wasn't sure, but I hoped it was about punching Nazis.
Yeah.
My work laptop's camera is a little bit lower, so it's not just this. You end up getting the whole shirt. So. Everybody saw it immediately. Oh, which is good.
Yeah, well, I have to crop it down to fit into the stream, so
it's worth letting people know where you stand.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good stance to make in today's world of everyone has to have something to die for. Anyway, I think we've officially covered ransomware and the Colonial pipeline attack or crack or whatever. Not hack is the word I'm looking for. That is the word hack. So yeah, I think we're gonna go on. We're gonna take a break. We'll be back in a few minutes after we've maybe refreshed our drinks
or get some bourbon
or returned our drinks, if you get that reference. And we'll be back in just a few. Let me find here's the break thing.
Press the button. Press the button.
Here we go. We'll be back in a bit, guys. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/ironsysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/ironsysadmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysAdmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysAdmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/IronSysAdmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/IronSysAdmin. And thank you. Are you a fan of the Iron Sysadmin podcast? If you are, don't forget you can support the show via Patreon at patreon.com/ironsysadmin. Or you can buy merchandise at teespring.com/stores/ironsysadmin. And thank you. All right, folks, in case you couldn't tell from the music, we're back. And that's because we were having entirely too good of a time talking about one of the news articles during the break.
We went through most of them.
That sucks. We went through all the articles and you guys missed it. So that's Iron Sysadmin for tonight.
The only way you would have caught them is if you were on our cool patrons only stream on Discord.
I forget that that's there. I'm going to say a nasty thing one of these times.
Discord! So yeah, if you were there, you would have caught the news. Sorry, you're just going to have to, I would say tune in later, but, or, maybe listen to the recording, but probably won't be there either. So, it's gone into the ether. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about our announcements, as usual. So, patron update. We actually got a new patron or two. Thank you to the new folks.
Hi, Bob.
We're up to 21 patrons now for a total of 104 a month. We had one of our patrons upgrade so he could be in one of our higher tiers, which is pretty cool. That particular tier entitles them to swag. So, basically, after a month, I'm going to get a t-shirt out to that particular patron. If you want a t-shirt without having to just go to Teespring and buy it yourself, which is completely fine, go do that if you want to just buy a t-shirt without having to subscribe to Patreon.
I thought that because new patrons are subscribing, you were getting a t-shirt and I was getting jealous. So
yeah, that's it. I'm going to get a t-shirt for that 104.
It's kind of what you said, and I was confused, and I may have drank too much scotch tonight.
I said they get swag. They get a t-shirt.
Yeah, but it came afterwards.
I did say I was going to go get a t-shirt printed up, and then I said for them.
Exactly.
You missed that because of the... Okay.
For them came later, and I was confused right up until that part. And
I get it. Besides, you have a shirt already.
I have lots of shirts. There's
you have an Iron Sysadmin shirt somewhere in that.
Yeah, but I can always use another one.
Well, Mark, maybe I'll send you one. You've been a patron for a while too.
Oh, great! I've been a patron a while, and I haven't gotten a t-shirt.
You have a shirt already. I'll send you a mug.
You get some mug.
No, I won't use it.
Crappy old shirt.
Man, you two are worse than my kids.
Hashtag choosing beggar.
Why did he get the straw with a bend in it and mine's straight?
Wait! There was a bendy straw.
Her straw has a cool figure on it.
Wait, there's a bendy straw?
A shitty bendy straw.
That's what we need. The Iron Sysadmin bendy straw.
Yes.
We got to get Teespring on that one.
Swag possibility? Maybe.
I've been told that Redbubble will create. You can basically print on anything. And
Red
apparently, you can
balls?
get
What?
Redbubble to print.
You know, I have
You
a
can
shirt.
get Redbubble to print on thongs.
The Iron Sysadmin
So will
thong.
look. Teespring's already got that covered.
Thong.
Redbubble. I have a shirt from Redbubble. You've seen my Doom shirt, the Notorious BFG, right? It's probably 10 years old at this point, but like it's all faded off now.
Maybe.
You saw it. I had it when I worked at the college. I'm sure you saw it.
Okay, that was a long time ago. I don't remember.
That's how long ago I had it. So, but anyway, and I don't wear it that often. Anyway,
Okay, well.
my point is, we're talking about patrons, and you guys have totally distracted me, and it's not the old fashioned's fault because it's not even gone yet.
Are you still complaining?
No, I want to read off our patrons because we love them.
Then read
They're
off the
awesome. They're
patrons.
giving us.
We do love our patrons.
They're now
Why
giving
aren't
us
you reading
up
off
to
the names of the patrons?
$104 a month, which is awesome.
These
so,
patrons are giving us money every month, and you're not reading their names.
So,
what do we have to do to get you to read their names?
A big thank you to Arinomi. I think I was pronouncing that right. Arinomi? Yeah, that's got to be right. Andrew, Tatro, rootisgod, Bruce, Robert, Matt, David, Solemn, Trooper-ish, Linux Sys 666, gimpyb, Marc with a K, DeMentor, which we're going to talk about him in a minute. Gimp, I did that already. DeMentor, John, the nice guy, Marc with a C, Julius, Andi, Jay, Charles, and our old friend 22532. So speaking of,
go with Arinomi.
Arinomi?
I think that's the name.
Okay, well he's
Arinomi.
in chat. How do we pronounce your name? Tell us.
Can you phonetically spell it out?
Can you phonetically spell it in the chat because that's what we need.
Hell, I can't even phonetically spell my name. Good Lord.
It's Marc with a C.
Okay, you remember the Commodore 64 and the computerized voice Sam?
No.
Can you write it in such a way that Sam can pronounce it so that we can just play it on the podcast? That would be great. Thanks.
Okay.
And did you answer his question about the stream?
No, because I was reading it while Jason was going on about.
You get to listen. You get to watch Nate's hands.
Right. Yeah. So basically, the way the stream works is there's an Android phone right up here off camera. Here, you can hear it's right.
Hey, I got it right.
It's right. It's right there. Right there. See it there?
Oh, don't break Zencaster.
Yeah. Right. Now I gotta move my camera back. Okay. So that thing is basically streaming to a room in Discord called the server room. If you're a patron of the proper tier, you get access to that room. If you join that room, you can speak, but we won't hear you because I have you muted on the mixer. If it gains popularity, maybe you will work in a section of the show where you get to talk to us on the live show. I don't know. Maybe we'll use it for live call-in style stuff. I don't know. But at the moment, if you join that, you'll be able to see the perspective from this camera, which is basically my desk. You can see my hands, I think.
Which is super creepy.
Which is kind of creepy. You can see my drink and tell how much I've had to drink without me having to hold it up, which could be useful. And that's kind of, you can hear us. You should be able to hear everything that comes through my mixer. You should be able to hear, which should be the whole show. So that's how that works. But you've sidetracked me now. Thank you to all of our patrons. And I wanted to say, however you guys want to send well wishes to the mentor in our Discord community. He lives in Israel, and if you haven't heard, so first of all, he's a friend of the show. He's been on the show twice now. He talked about home automation one time, and he talked about PowerShell on Linux another time. Good episodes if you want to go back and listen to them. Really good guy. His name's Avery. He lives in Israel, and if you haven't looked at the news at all lately, Israel is going through a bad time at the moment. I'm not going to get into the politics of what's going on in Israel, but there are, like, he posted a video of missiles being shot down in the sky that he could see from his house. That's got to be scary crap. He's gone to bomb shelters, I think, twice now that he's told us. So just keep him, if you're a praying sort of person, keep him in your prayers. Whatever you want to do to send him positive vibes and make sure that him and his family are safe. So I just wanted to say that. He's a friend of the show. I want to make sure that, you know, he gets out of this okay.
So he posted a picture in Discord of
Discord.
What appears, yeah, that. Yep. He posted a picture there of a piece of a thing that fell from the sky, and I just have one question. What are you making it into?
Yeah, I know. I would totally collect that and turn it into something
I would
awesome.
like the build video of whatever you turn this into. Just saying.
And when it gets when it gets linked up to your Home Assistant, that's when you know that it's that's when you've succeeded.
Honestly, like seriously, stay safe. I don't
Yeah.
want to make light of the situation, but
yeah,
it humor is my thing. My wife says I'm really bad at it though, so sorry.
But it's okay. You work in IT. You're not supposed to have actually good humor. You're supposed to have dry, terrible humor that the rest of us think is funny. That's how that works. Just like watching Monty Python.
Yes.
There's people who think Monty Python is hilarious, and other people that look at you while you're laughing hysterically like, what is wrong with you? This isn't funny at all. You know, that's how IT humor works. Anyway.
I am apparently going to get a very deep understanding of this whole conflict because I responded to something on Twitter and my Twitter has blown up. So.
Never respond to anything on Twitter.
Oh no, I want to understand what the hell's going on because
even the most innocuous thing on Twitter turns into a flame war. Haven't you learned this?
Well, I don't understand what I've never been able to understand because it's not something I was ever taught.
There's missiles and conflict.
Yeah, well, I get that, but anyway, we don't want to go down this road.
I deal with I hate the politics in our own country enough. I don't know if I really want to worry too much about other countries' politics. I feel for them, trust me, but
the problem in this particular instance,
I can totally explain the whole friggin' thing, but I'm not going to.
The problem,
maybe after the show.
The problem in this instance, Nate, is that apparently our politics are inextricably tied to this entire thing.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate side effect to us being involved in every other freaking country's politics.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah, well, maybe even more so in this case. So.
Anyway, we're going to move along because this feels like it's fraught with peril. Right. If you'd like to support the show via purchasing merchandise instead, you should do so via that Teespring place that we talked about. You can buy coffee mugs. I mean, I could make Iron Sysadmin thongs if you're really that interested.
Only if you model it.
No, that will not happen. Not a thing. Not a thing anybody wants. We tried to get Dustin.
Well, that would be for the blackmail.
We tried to get Dustin one, if you remember, Jason, when we first set up the Teespring. He might have gone for it. He might have, but he didn't.
Possibly.
He didn't.
Probably.
So anyway, teespring.com/storage/Iron Sysadmin, or look at the show notes, or go to ironsysadmin.com. There's a link right there. We don't have any new reviews today, or this 3-week period since we last recorded. And that's all of the announcements. Anybody have any announcements that weren't in the notes? When's B-Sides coming up, man? It's I feel like you should start talking about it by now.
B-Sides is November something or other. I can never remember the dates, so sorry. We've been planning it. It's going to be remote this year.
Okay.
I understand the whole TDC thing, blah 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 blah. We're gonna go remote one more year just because we want to be safe. And then hopefully we'll be back in person again next year. So it'll be on Discord again. We've already worked out sort of the theme and some artwork and stuff, and the CFP is technically open. It needs to be a little bit more widely dispersed, but if you have an interest in talking, let us know. We're more than happy to take topics now and get you on the list. And more information will be forthcoming. So,
and folks, don't
move forward.
Don't feel intimidated by the idea that it's a security conference and that you have to produce some like deep, crazy security related content. Of course, that stuff's welcome. But I've presented there twice I have a talk I give about how I started Iron Sysadmin, and I've given that at B-Sides, and it's been well received both times. So, stuff like that is welcome. I mean, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you guys just did that because you like me.
No, the secret is that I don't know if we've ever actually rejected a talk. Now, that's not to say that we won't. It is entirely if you come with the right thing, we will be more than happy to tell you to go pound sand.
If it violates your punching Nazis rule, does that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Does that? So I got to put that on the thing now.
Punch your local Nazi.
So
we talked about that before the break, I think, wasn't it? Or was that during the break?
Yeah. During the break, maybe. So we are pretty much open to anything. Yes, we are a security conference. We are also a family-oriented security conference. We have had talks about running a podcast. We have had talks about the latest APT 0-day, crazy assembly, whatever. We've done lockpicking. We've had talks by kids. We've had talks about kids. We've had talks about pretty much everything. If you want to give a talk and talk to a bunch of rational adults and are not afraid of feedback and want to start a conversation, we're interested. As long as you're not looking to start a fight with somebody on purpose, there's really no reason why you couldn't talk. There's no reason you couldn't talk.
Marc has a talk prepared about why we should all be vaccinated, and it's very abrasive.
No, actually, I think we would accept a talk about vaccines, but realize that I will not, I will put my foot down. I will put my foot down. If you are an anti-vaxxer and you're going to come talk about anti-vax crap, go somewhere else, right?
Dude,
there are certain things that we are not going to allow.
Your C groups talk might actually be well received at B-Sides.
Yeah, actually, yes, we would. I would love to have a C groups talk because people don't understand what it is.
When is it?
And it is.
He said November, and he didn't know the dates.
It's
remember?
November.
All right, so I'm telling you now, I'm there. I will give you a thing on. I will give you a talk on C groups, whether it's virtual or in person.
Yeah, I was going to say the thing you do is more of a lab, right? He's got a hands-on version of it. You've also got a talk version, right?
Many versions.
If there's such a thing as a lab at B-Sides, that would be awesome. But
I can do lab. I can do talk. I can do talk with demo. I can scale it from a half hour to an hour to an hour and a half.
We do have workshops.
This reminds me.
We do have workshops.
This reminds me that we talked about doing your C Groups lab for Iron Sysadmin viewers, and we never really circled back on that.
So I'm actually considering a fun side project, and I want to bounce this off of you guys and maybe our listeners. I'm considering recording Uncle Marc Tech Talks, which would be non-Red Hat branded, like technical, like basically presentations, discussions, hour and a half, basically record myself, stream it. It wouldn't be a live stream, but I'd record it, probably toss it up on the YouTube, which would basically be essentially, Nate, you know how like webinars work, right? At the TAM webinars, right? It would be similar. Like it would be a mix of presentation. It would be a mix of demo. It would be a mix of me telling terrible jokes and just like offer that as like, again, not Red Hat branded, but just as an open source thing.
You missed the part where you sing.
I might sing.
Is that included in the terrible jokes?
But I'm debating that. I was actually repurposing the C. I was actually unbranding my C groups presentation and modifying it to do as that. So I don't know. I think that could be kind of cool.
That might be cool.
Yeah, updates why you shouldn't. Right. Because that new code might give your computer autism.
Yes, that's terrible, and such a great comparison.
Because there might be a regression.
Don't update.
You don't want those regressions. Sometimes there's regressions.
So B-Sides this year is November 12th and 13th.
Yay!
Okay.
So I will get you the CFP info and you can
I would be delighted. I miss talking at conferences. Now, is it going to be virtual this year, or do you think it's going to be in person?
It's virtual. No, it'll be virtual.
Weren't you paying attention? It'll be virtual. Next year it'll be in person. So if you want to hold off for next year, go right ahead.
The intention is for next year to be in person. I'm not going to guarantee it until we see it.
I'm not going to not do content. In fact, for the virtual, I might do more of the Prezzo with demo, and in person we might do a workshop. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Yeah,
we don't have to.
All good.
Yeah, we're getting into the weeds. This is a podcast that everybody's listening to, and here's me and you negotiating for me to come to B-Sides.
So yeah, right. Look, if you have a talk and you want to give it, let us know, and we will discuss it. But like I said, as long as it's not something ridiculously ridiculous, it probably will get through with no problem.
Like, why
and
not
honestly,
to update?
you know, a lot of people talk about open source. They're like, I want to contribute, but I don't know how to program and this and then the other thing. But if you're knowledgeable about a topic, this is like a way to give back, is to
Or
speak at conferences or things
or if
like
you can
that.
write documentation, or design a
Well,
new
I'm
logo
talking
for the project.
specifically
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
this type
Yes.
of opportunity.
Yes.
Sharing nerd stuff with other people, whether it's in a virtual manner or at a real life convention, that's right in the swim lane of giving back to the open source community.
Or run a podcast. Anyway.
Or, yes, we don't need all the examples, but this is certainly an example.
All right. So I think we've meandered our way from announcements into chat. So feel free to chat.
Oh, I thought we just kind of did chat.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
kind of did, I guess.
Nate's playing Valheim on Tamland now.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he played once.
By playing we mean
twice.
I got in and played with you guys once, which was like the day after our last episode when we talked about Valheim.
And then we harassed you last night, but you refused to get on.
Well, I mean, look, at least I joined you for chat, okay?
That was fun.
Kids soccer ran late yesterday.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, that's really the only thing I have to chat about, because that's pretty much all I've been doing. I did finish printing all the pieces for that doll I told
Creepy
you guys
doll?
about I was printing. But we haven't assembled it yet because we haven't had time to prep the damn thing.
So this is what printed before. This is a Lego guy had. My friend Ian, who I met down on our Disney cruise last year.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a nerd himself, and he loves 3D printing and Legos. So he sent me the STLs for a big Lego figure that prints in multiple parts. It's doing the torso now.
That's probably easier to assemble and deal with than the ball jointed doll that I printed out.
Than the creepy doll.
Because that thing, printing it was a bear, and I think that was the easy part.
I thought it was a girl.
No, the act of printing it was like a bear, like wrestling a bear, perhaps.
It didn't come out like a bear.
Maybe even a Russian bear. No, it came out like an attractive woman in pieces.
Waka waka.
Which is weird.
So you built a girl, basically. It's the plot of Real Science.
I have a shoebox full of body parts.
Oh yeah, that's not creepy at all.
So yeah, I have a shoebox full of ball-jointed doll body parts. It is a little creepy.
So if you forget to hook the clips up to the doll body, does a missile come up through the middle of your house?
Maybe.
I'm not sure if I get the reference.
Just curious.
It's the 80s movie I referenced.
Okay.
A few lines ago.
Okay. Yeah,
You
unfortunately, I saw the TV series Weird Science, and I don't think I've ever seen the movie. The TV series did not live up to the movie, from what I understand.
The movie was fun. I mean, it wasn't great. It was an 80s teen movie, which a lot of them were kind of bad, but it was fun.
They were bad and usually had gratuitous nudity.
So much nudity in the 80s. Like, it's actually
It's funny. I was having this conversation with my wife just yesterday, and she didn't remember. She did not remember that every 80s movie ever had some kind of nudity in it, because that's just a thing they did. Everything had boobs in it.
I know that there is nudity in Weird Science, but I don't think, I'm trying to remember, I don't think there's actually like crazy gratuitous nudity in it.
Well, no.
It was, by the 80s standards, it was mild.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it was very, very, very mild. Yeah.
So maybe I'm using gratuitous in the wrong way. What I mean is there's nudity for the sake of nudity. Like, it's just like, we're allowed to do this, let's do it. It doesn't fit the story, there's no reason for there to be nudity, but look, there's a naked woman running across the back of the screen.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that doesn't actually exist in Weird Science. There is one scene of nudity which is so quick that you may actually miss it. And I didn't even realize it until years later that it was there. Other than that, there's a suggestion of ample bosoms, and there's a shower scene that actually doesn't show anything.
Well, beyond
that,
they designed a woman from a computer. Computer nerds designed a woman. There's going to be boob jokes.
Right, but that's the thing. There's tons of boob jokes, but no
actual
nudity.
boobs.
Yeah, it's weird. And I'm sure there's something wrong with the movie. I'm sure somebody's upset about something in the movie, but overall, it was actually kind of a fun ride.
Every movie from the 80s is like that.
Yeah.
The 80s movies, like 16 Candles, you watch that, you got Long Dick Dong, the Chinese student.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, or whatever his name was.
I'm thinking of how horribly received like Revenge of the Nerds would be today.
It was Long Duck Dong, wasn't it?
Long Duck Dong. It was something. It was, but it was not. And every time he was on screen, they'd ring the gong.
The gong, yeah.
I mean, it was. And this was considered like a John Hughes wholesome movie. Like today, it would be like racist garbage, honestly, to a lot of people. Yeah.
And times change.
Times
I mean,
change.
for the time, it was a minus some of the overt racism, and I don't think. In some, I don't remember the entire movie.
You got to be careful what you say. You got to be
yes,
careful what you say.
I don't remember every scene in every movie, but a lot of it, like, you know, playing the gong, some of it was meant in, I think, meant in fun.
Yeah.
And it wasn't meant to be overtly racist.
Yeah, but if you watch it today, it just looks like they're making fun of a nationality,
Yeah.
and that is flat out not okay.
It's not. Looks they were, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to own that. But what we can own is we've gotten better.
Yeah.
We well, have we? Because some of the stuff, like, so
there's still some pretty terrible stuff out there. Yeah.
Saved by the Bell. Did you guys ever watch Saved by the Bell? The old series.
Saved by the Bell has a laugh track and that idiot screech. So it was
okay.
It was off of my list.
But anything some of it was
that's because it's not in your age group. I watched a ton of Saved by the Bell.
From what I remember,
laugh track since I was small, and I realized the Brady Bunch had one.
From what I remember, I mean, some of it was really dumb, but some of it was actually kind of funny, and it was. I don't remember anything being like super offensive.
Right.
Apparently, they've redone or they've continued or whatever the hell they're calling it now.
They rebooted.
There is a new. It's not really rebooted though, because the original Saved by the Bell cast is in it.
Right, they're
it's a sequel, if you will.
It is. By the way,
I watched one episode. One. I will never watch it again. I was so offended. It is so unbelievably bad. Like, not just bad. It was like in your face offensive. I could not believe that they allowed something like that.
Really?
Maybe I was just being like overly sensitive,
well,
but I was like, "Oh my god!"
Then it won't last long. That's all there is to it.
Well,
I guess
there was never a chance that I was going to watch it, so okay then.
Yeah, it probably stood a very small chance of lasting long to begin with, but.
Yeah, I think we watched it sort of as it was one of those, like, it was on TV, and I was like, "Oh, look, that's a thing," and my buddy was like, "We're going to watch it now, just because like this is going to piss you off." And we watched it, and we were like, "This is really bad, really, really bad." Anyway.
Arinomi has an interesting comment in chat if you want to go ahead and read that. If you can read it, yeah. Episode of MASH. Now, MASH, yeah. All right. Well, anyway.
Was it? Let's see. I guess it was anti-race. I don't remember it being anti or pro-homophobic, to be honest.
I don't remember dealing with homophobia.
There was the cross-dressing dude, which
that was him trying to Section 8 out.
Yeah,
and that
it
was actually. But you can actually.
I never really thought of
that
as homophobia.
You could actually look at that as making fun of people being uncomfortable. I don't know. I don't want to drill into it. All I remember, and I just said this in chat, like when I graduated class 85, which, in my lifetime, I mean, homophobia was just a thing. I mean, Eddie Murphy did a whole routine where he just made fun of gay people. Had the honeymooners like having like Ralph and Norton like banging each other.
I went to school in my opinion, a very like transformative time. Like, I started in the mid 80s and graduated in the late 90s, and there was a whole lot of social change going on in that time. So I can remember a time when it was like, and I don't want to downplay this, but like racism was a lot more common when I was little. and a lot less tolerated when I was a teenager. Like, in that relatively short amount of time, I could see things as a kid growing up in that era, things turning around. Same thing with homophobia. It was very, very frowned upon in the mid to late 80s, and by the 90s, it was a whole lot more accepted. Now, obviously, we had a long way to go, but I'm just saying, you could see society turning around on that.
Yeah.
Just in my like kid to teenage years.
Yeah, not going to argue. And one of the mistakes we make is we think that we've arrived, and then you realize that for a lot of people, it's still a daily
Oh yeah,
struggle.
there's a lot of people that are still living in that 80s era or earlier, right?
Yeah.
Which is, kind of sad. But, I see the things happening in the world today, and I look at them like, I thought this was solved. Like, I thought this was a thing that was addressed, because in my own life, it was sort of addressed as I grew up, right?
No,
But it didn't happen to everybody. It just, I was lucky enough that it happened to me while I was going through school, right? Like, there was never a point where in school I ever felt like anybody was less than anybody else, like from the adults that were teaching us. And a lot of people didn't have that in their childhood. They had the opposite.
Yeah. No,
Anyway.
this country has struggled. This country has struggled with racism for a really long time, and we're far from done with it, I believe.
Yeah, obviously. That seems obvious at this point.
It's okay to admit it. And
yeah, and I mean, like
yeah.
again, before the sort of recent outpouring in 2019, 2020, again, I thought this was a thing that was in our past, and it's not. It's absolutely not. It's kind of terrible. I don't understand it.
So, okay, so I'm trying to think of the path we walked down to get to here.
It was a strange one.
It was.
Fueled by whiskey, bourbon, and rye.
Maybe we should go to the news so we can start making fun of certain companies and people.
Maybe we should get off of these
making fun of companies and people. I like that.
That sounds like a good thing. All right, so I don't know if I missed anything in the chat. I covered.
Hit the button.
We got weird science, and I've got a shoebox full of body parts. Did I miss anything? I don't think so.
We need to get you being a Viking more. Hit the button.
Okay, this button.
Discord.
No, the music button.
I mean,
this button
one works too.
Oh my!
Not that button. This one.
What an operation we're in here. We're being raided. DEFCON 20 is raiding us.
Wow. Okay. DEFCON 201.
Interesting.
All right.
They're in Jersey, I would think. Isn't 201?
Area code 20.
That's my
Jersey,
home
right?
area code. That's
Jersey.
Jersey.
That's Jersey.
Northeastern New Jersey.
Northeastern New Jersey. Okay.
That's awesome.
Hoboken,
that's,
Jersey City,
guys.
etc.
That's DC 201. Like, they communicate with DC 610 all the time on Twitter.
Yeah.
You would think, Jason, since you're
know.
one of the founders of DC 610, you would know this.
Jersey. All we know is DC.
All I know.
DC
All I know is that
good
DC
pizza.
610 is the best, and we just there is no other DC that
DC 201. They're the DCers that know where to get a good pizza.
Yeah, they go to New York.
Hoboken has spectacular pizza. Benny Tadino's.
Hoboken.
Honestly, say I don't know that I've ever had New Jersey pizza.
You're missing out, my friend. We'll have to
Hey,
fix that one
I'm
of these
sorry.
days.
When I was born, I had to sign a contract that said "fuck New Jersey." It's just that's what it said, and I had to sign it.
Nah. Jersey's a great state.
Mark, you should feel good about the fact that you weren't the first one to curse on tonight's show.
He was.
Oh, was he? Did I miss it?
I slipped something out.
Yeah. Back. Remember he was working on the printer.
Yeah.
Oh, right. When the printer sounded like an air compressor. I remember now. All right, so we're here to talk about the news, I think.
The news.
All right, so our first article actually comes from Yahoo Finance because it's the first place I ran across it, even though I didn't know Yahoo was even still in business.
Barely. They're still
It's
my
weird.
email provider, which I'm a little bit ashamed about.
Yeah, well, that just means that everyone has access to your email. Congratulations.
I two-factor. They can't, but I do two-factor for login. So
On Yahoo.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they supported that.
Yeah, apparently they've
do.
moved into this century.
They do. They do. Honestly, nothing really important is on there anyway. So
All right, so Google has been hit with a 123 million antitrust fine in Italy over
Million?
Android Auto. Yes, million with
so
an
about
M.
20 seconds of revenue.
Yeah, right. They're probably just gonna throw it. Just like here,
So
take it,
it's-
whatever. What?
Android Auto, is that in the boats that they pushed down there? Never mind.
What?
Right,
I don't-
because Venice, the canals.
Yeah,
The guys with the guys with the funny
right.
hats.
So
with
Italy has cars.
They apparently
Oh!
Ferrari, right?
I
Don't
get
they have
it.
Ferraris and shit?
I understand. Yeah, right. All the Ferraris, they have
Okay,
Android Auto. Probably
I will
not.
refer you back to my previous statement from a long time ago, where
About
my
the-
wife with
about the bad humor?
and
And the reference to Monty Python.
I love bad humor.
Yeah, I get it. We're all good with
my
bad
favorite
humor. It's
kind.
just that even
Hashtag
sometimes
dad joke.
even we don't get it. All right, so
I got it. I just
yeah, you got it. You got it. I didn't get. I'm the slow
I
one.
I even
I
talked
get
about
it.
the hats that they
I get it,
wore.
Mark. I'm
So
the slow
Google-
one.
So Google basically, yeah, they've got this Android Auto, right, which is sort of like Apple Play or CarPlay that Apple does.
Mhm.
And they apparently, to get your application, it looks like, needs to be compatible with it, so that people don't have to touch their phone to use the app.
Yeah.
And
So-
so there's apparently this Juice Plus. No, wait, that's a bad MLM.
Juice Pass.
Juice Pass.
Juice Pass. Yeah, Juice
Yeah.
Plus is a terrible multi-level marketing scam.
Is it really?
Oh yes.
you
Juice
research
Plus,
all of
it's-
them, so you know what to avoid. I get it.
One of my hobbies is making fun of MLMs.
Oh, good. That's a good hobby.
It's a wonderful hobby. It's more fun than fighting with anti-vaxxers. Anyway,
But it's the same fight, Mark. It's the same one.
it sometimes is, because there is a Venn diagram with boss babes and anti-vaxxers, and it's a pretty significant crossover. I'm
Oh,
just
boy.
saying. But anyway, so this Juice Pass is not cleared, and the thing that the problem with Juice Pass is that it's a third-party app. It's specifically to help electric car owners find charging stations, but it has the nerve of using mapping, and so it conflicts with Google Maps, obviously.
Yep.
So the claim is that Google is blocking their access because they're essentially a competitor, and that's that's antitrust in a nutshell.
Now, it's funny, unrelated to Iron Sysadmin, but for my Jeep YouTube channel, I did a review of several Android and iOS-based trail mapping apps, GPS, trail mapping apps. And one of the criteria that I tried to judge them all on was whether they integrated with Android Auto. Because obviously, when you're Jeeping, you're in a vehicle. If they integrate with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, I didn't have a device to test Apple CarPlay with, but I tested them with Android Auto. None of them worked. And maybe this is why. Maybe it's the same thing, right? Because it's a mapping application, and Google wants you to use Google
you can
Maps.
start a lawsuit.
Well, I mean, I could if I owned any of the apps. I was just reviewing the apps, Mark. Did you miss that part? I don't write them.
Yeah, but you found it, and you weren't able to review, and therefore you were missing out on those fat ad clicks.
Right.
But
yeah, totally, man. Taking
but
food out of my
here-
family's
and-
mouth.
And here's the real thing: Google Maps has apparently a shittier version of the ability to find charging stations. So that's where the antitrust factor comes in. I
Right.
believe.
Right. Yeah. So the concept here is Google and Apple, because they have these platforms, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, could almost be gatekeepers as to what apps you can use in your car, right? Not saying that Apple is doing the same thing. I'm just using them for comparison. But yeah, so Google in their, Google-ishness
Googleishness.
are I don't know what else to call that, because
No, that's awesome. I'll allow
like
it.
the word Google sort of brings different ideas to everybody's mind, and one of those is probably Google is kind of a gatekeeper for things like this, right? And that's
They
what
absolutely are.
that's what they're doing here, or at least that's what they're accused of doing. Well, I guess they're being fined, so I guess that means they are doing it, right? That means that they've
Yeah. They've actually been nailed with, oh my God, they got a $5 billion penalty at one point from the EU.
That one might hurt.
Yeah, that would hurt a little bit. And I'm not drilling into that link. Oh, hell, I'm going to drill into that link.
Why
that
not?
was for, so, wow. Abusing the dominance of the Android mobile operating system.
Yeah, I was gonna mention like 123 million, like whatever.
5
like,
million or
I'm
5
sure
billion? That's
I'm sure Google doesn't care about that. But even 5 billion, I'm not sure that Google really. That probably hurts a little bit more. But
I think 5
I'm
billion
not sure
hurts.
that it's much.
I think 5 billion hurts.
I don't think it hurts as much as. I mean, that would be like to your average person. That's like a couple $1,000 fine. I don't think that's really a real injury to Google.
Yeah, now this is 2018, this multi-billion-dollar fine, and I'm not really sure whatever happened to it.
We probably talked
It's
about
probably
it on the
still
show,
going through the courts,
and we've forgotten about it.
Yeah, they were
it's probably still going through the courts. I'm sure they haven't paid it.
Yeah, they disagreed with this last decision, but I have a feeling that much like the ransomware, they're probably just going to pay it. Because it's just not. It's not a lot of money.
Right, but so just paying it doesn't get them off the hook necessarily.
Well,
like just paying it doesn't mean they can continue to block this app.
They can. They'll just get fined again.
Well, right.
Or they'll claim. So what they claim I closed the article already because I'm a little tipsy now because I'm well through my bourbon, which I poured too much of.
There's no such thing.
They claim right. Those words make no sense in a sentence together. Oh, we're going to be a 3-hour podcast.
I wish I had
tonight.
poured more, to be honest.
We had a very long break, so it's not going to be 2 hours on tape. Does your wife do that too? Call things on tape when there's not any tape involved? Like, she's like, did it tape the show? I'm like, no, it hasn't taped a show for 20 years. We've had TiVo and now DirecTV. I had a thought in there that was relevant and I totally lost it. So I'm going to shut up now.
All right, I guess we're going to move on then
and
to
people give us money for this. They pay us every month.
$100 a month. You guys are awesome. All right, so we're gonna move on. Mark, you put this article in, but I'm afraid to have you talk about it.
No, so this is a knucklehead, or what did I call him? It wasn't knucklehead originally. A chucklehead.
Chucklehead.
So this was actually an article on the New York. It was on some paper that you needed to pay to look at, and I didn't. So I found the article that talked about that article that has the somewhat hostile reaction. But there's this chucklehead who's the CEO of WeWork. Now, WeWork is a company that, if you don't know their business model, they're a commercial real estate company that creates flexible work environments. So if you don't want a full-time office, you can rent a WeWork space for whatever a period of time you want. And
the walls are made of glass.
Right.
You've heard of Rent-A-Cops? This is Rent an Office.
Yep.
So this chucklehead, in an interview, stated that the least engaged employees are very comfortable working from home, while those who are uberly engaged want to get back to the office. And he said those who are uberly engaged with the company. Now, first of all, if you call someone uberly engaged, you're a douchebag. So let's just get that right out. I automatically don't like the guy. I didn't fully scan the article. I haven't checked to see if he uses ask as a noun, but just because of the expression uberly engaged, he's a douchebag. So those who are uberly engaged with the company want to go to the office 2/3 of the time at least. Those who are least engaged are very comfortable working from home. And then he said, those employees need to spend time together in office for collaboration and efficiency. So here's another statement. People are happier when they come to work, he remarked. The bigger issue is, do you come to work 5 days a week or do you come to work 3 days a week? That's the bigger issue. There's no issue of not coming to a common place. And as you might imagine, a lot of people disagree strongly with his perspective.
I'm going to say I disagree with his perspective because I'm very happy working from home, and this implies that I'm a slacker.
How weird The guy who runs a company that rents out offices says that only the most engaged people are interested in coming back to the office, and that's bad. Do you think maybe he's biased? I'm just spitballing here.
You think maybe he's trying to make employers think they need to return to the office quickly so that all those slackers can be monitored more closely?
Maybe he's trying to distract from the fact that since we've done this whole work from home force thing, employers have started to figure out that you can get a lot more hours out of an employee when they're not leaving their home.
Well, even
that might frighten his bottom line.
Even if a company's not abusing employees by expecting them to work 24/7 because they're home anyway, the reality is I've been mostly remote since 2009, and I've been remote since 2015 with Red Hat. I won the fucking chairman's award this year, which is the highest regular award someone at Red Hat can win. So maybe I'm the maybe I'm the example that I don't remember how to say the expression, but
exception, not the rule.
Yeah, I mean, I can point to so many high performing, clever people. I mean, Linux and open source projects are worked on by people who never see each other. It's all done remotely. It's all done collaboratively over this internet thing. I mean, I miss seeing coworkers once a month in person because we would do social gatherings.
Yeah.
But
I don't eat good food together.
I don't miss commuting on a regular basis. Open office layouts are terrible.
Oh God.
They are terrible.
And that is essentially what a WeWork is, except it's in a very crowded little space.
Right.
Yeah, you get your own little glass cubicle with all your other workers.
Yeah, you get one glass cubicle that you cram all of your workers into.
Exactly.
And then, even if you have the luxury of a cube, some asshole either burns popcorn or cooks fish in the microwave at least once a week.
Oh, God.
I mean, there's no reason to go back to the office.
That's why I started bringing popcorn shrimp to the office.
Jason, you remember.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. I also remember being in places where the microwave was, 100 feet down the hall and you still smelled it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've looked at this a couple different ways. So like I was the guy who worked from home, who never stopped working and put in, 80, 90, 100 hours a week. And that worked okay. Yeah, it is bad. Eventually I got to the point where I basically burnt out without knowing I burnt out. There's an awful lot of studies about how working, even 40 hours is too much. And the time that you take in between working, where you're not concentrated on that, actually generates better ideas than when you're sitting staring at the screen for 8 hours a day. And I have found that that's actually fairly true in my life as well. So, breaks throughout the day and not spending my entire lifetime in front of the computer trying to figure out how to do the next best thing has actually helped me create the next best thing. So, I disagree with a lot of these things that are coming out that are saying like people need to be in the office and they spend all this time, and like there needs to be moderation. Do you need people in the office? My honest thought at this point is that yes, there are definitely different occupations that require people to be in the office. Yes. Doctors are not as effective when they're working from home.
Yeah, we found that out in the early part of the lockdowns when all of our doctor visits became virtual.
Yeah, I think
if
you're
the most guy running the nuclear power plant, like literally loading the fuel rods and stuff, you need to go in every so often.
Yeah. There's definitely like jobs that require you need to be there to do the job.
IT, no.
In a lot of cases, IT is a no. There are positions in IT.
The guys who maintain data centers, yes.
Yeah.
But if here's the thing. When I was at Marc, even when I was in the office, there was a day, the clock passed the time, the calendar hit the day when we as Linux system administrators are not allowed anymore to go into the actual server room where the servers lived. We could only access them over the web browser for ILO or SSH. At that point, there was literally no reason for me to be in the office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From that day forward.
Yeah, we sort of hit that when at the college they moved us off campus, right? So when Jason, when you worked there, when we were together there, and up until like 2017 or 2018, the data center was literally across the hall from the office that we worked in. The dank, dingy, smelly office that we worked in. Eventually, they moved us off campus, about probably only 10 to 15 minutes away from campus by car. You could even walk there in about 20 minutes. But all of a sudden, I found that the thing that I thought I needed to be directly accessible because I spent so much time in the data center, turned out I didn't really need to. I just had to take that little extra step to configure the remote console app on my machine, and all of a sudden, it was just like I was there. And the trips to the data center became once in a while.
I think the one thing that I've sort of taken out of this whole year work from home thing is that there's an awful lot of companies that want people in the office to justify the amount of money they pay for the office.
Yeah,
sure.
And that's it. The collaboration is still there. The the work product is still there. Like, there's no reason for you to be there. And I can do this stuff from home.
I'm going to go as far. Nate and I work for a great manager. In fact, every manager I've had at Red Hat's been great. But there are bad managers who, their whole thing is when you're in the office together, they want to stand there and look over their fiefdom and justify their existence that way.
Yeah.
But there's probably a lot of management layer types who realize, holy crap, I'm actually moderately useless. And they're not doing things like coaching people and providing the type of leadership that people need. People can just ignore them. And those are the manager types, I think, who really want everybody back in an office, because then they can stand there with their arms crossed and nod their head and say, "Row, slaves, row."
Yeah, and Arinomi in the comments here is exactly right. There are people who like being in the office. Okay, cool. Go to the office. Have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are people who like being home. Okay, cool.
I mean,
people are different.
When I was considering the move from higher ed to Red Hat, and I realized I was going to be moving from a 4-day in the office work week, 1-day remote to 100% remote, I did quite a bit of looking into, like, what's that transition feel like? Because I felt like having that 1 day at home made me sort of ready for it. But there's a lot of people that say, no, I switched to a remote work job and hated it. I couldn't take it. I wasn't productive enough, or I wasn't this, or I wasn't that, or I can't stand being with my spouse, like whatever, right? There's too many things going on at home that I just can't do that from home. And they need to be in an office where either they're better supervised, or they have, coworkers to mingle with, or whatever, or a water cooler to stand around. Some people just need that. Some people need the social aspect of work in order to be productive. And being over a screen, as a lot of us have figured out since the beginning of 2020, isn't quite the same, right? So even us 100% remote workers at Red Hat still have these social events that Marc was just referring to.
And I miss the hell out of
them.
Where I'm gonna hug the shit out of everybody the next time I'm in the New York office.
Where we get together to see these people face to face and have a good time, have some beer together, have a good lunch together, hang out around the campfire, or not campfire, but the wood stove at that freaking awesome place in Lumberville that you guys found.
They do have an outside fire pit.
That would be even better. We got to use that next time.
Yeah.
Anyway, some people need a lot of that social interaction. Some people not so much. It happens that Red Hat, being a software company, maybe a lot of us just don't need it as much because that's the sort of people that work for Red Hat. I don't know, but
are you saying you guys are introverted?
No. What are you talking about?
Okay, just curious.
But I will say I do miss the in-person stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the thing was, it was in-person events on my terms.
Yeah.
Like, all those things that Nate and I are talking about are optional. So if there was 1 month where I'm like, I really don't want to feel like the machinations of getting to New York City this month. Or I really, I've got a scouting event. I really don't want to go to Philly and then have to get back in time to meet. I, no blood, no foul. I don't have to go.
Yeah.
I'll just go next month. And it was like Philly and New York, so it was really 2 events per month, the Philly area meetup and then the New York City, the users group there.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then, about once every month or two, I'd travel for a customer. So I was traveling I was traveling 2 to 3 times a month. And the rest of the time I was in my home office. And that was great. I love that.
Yeah, I don't miss being in the office because I like working in the office. I miss being in the office to see other people occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly
Yeah.
what these social meetings are meant to be about.
Right. So, but this nonsense, because honestly, even before the pandemic, even I keep bringing Marc up. Before I went remote, we still had a distributed team. My manager was in Canada before Marc introduced the idea of FlexOrg. So I was managed from Canada. I saw her once a year. Certain people on my team were in White House Station. Certain people were in West Point, Pennsylvania. And yeah, did you know there's a West Point in Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
And we saw each other kind of rarely, actually. So even when you're on site, not everybody's always on the same site or working in person.
So anyway, I think we've beaten that pretty well to death. Should we move on?
Okay.
All right. So the next article is from ZDNet, and this is actually from the end of April, but I included it because the next article references it. So this is more or less backstory. There's a company called, I think it's pronounced Code Cove.
I pronounced it code and then some random syllable.
Code. You call it Code Dev, right?
I like Code Dev,
which
better,
includes a
Code
V,
Cove
and that was the joke.
Code Cove sound like it kind of does. It stumbles out of my mouth. Code Cove.
So, I don't know. Did you guys get a better understanding of what these people do? Because I thought they were a code analysis company. Jason, you were saying something about reports that they've.
Yeah, it's a code coverage solution. So they're taking.
I don't know what that means.
Neither do
code
I.
coverage. Would
it's a
be,
DevOps thing, right?
It's basically if I'm. There may be more to it now these days, but code coverage was always. I've written a bunch of unit tests. How much of the code does that cover?
Oh, okay.
So it's basically a percentage of your code that's covered by your unit testing.
Oh, so Code Cove might be Code Cove, like code coverage.
Could be Code Cove.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So they offer code
Dev,
code coverage and software testing tools, right? And they have this tool called Bash Uploader, which I presume is meant to upload things from Bash.
Via Bash?
Via Bash, right. That tool was apparently
hijacked
and modified by attackers.
We'll call it hijacked.
Tampered with. Yeah, tampered with. We sort of, through our own conjecture, imagined that it was modified to upload more than just these coverage reports, right?
From the article specifically, an unknown attacker, because it's always an unknown attacker,
must be Russia,
was able to exploit an error in Code Dev's DACA
Code
creation process. No, they're Code Dev now. I've renamed them.
Okay,
to
good.
with the Code Dev Bash uploader script.
Right.
Because Code Cove is stupid.
Right. Well, see, what they don't outline is what they modified it to do, right?
We think they updated it to find all the porn on people's computers and upload it.
Maybe that's what it did, but I don't think that would affect the next article. Maybe it would. Maybe there's something we don't know about Rapid.
No, what we think they did is we think they modified it to upload the actual source code of the projects that people were working on, because the script basically explores all your CI branches and whatnot.
Right.
So it knows where your source code is.
Right. So, our conjecture is that they've modified it to upload the code to a third party, not to Code Cove, Dev, whatever you want to call them, but to the attacker, right? So this means that the code that you're reviewing has now been basically shared with a third party that you didn't want to share it with, which means in some cases, in the case where you're not dealing with open source software, your intellectual property has been given to somebody else.
Man.
Enter
No
the
open source.
Enter the and what was it? They had a number here about how many people they think were potentially used. There was a number
Arinomi,
here
they're
about
code dev. That we've renamed them, so this is a moot point that you're making in chat. They're code dev.
So allegedly, this happened between January 31st. This is according to Code Cov themselves. Between January 31st and April 1st, there were 108 windows of time where the malicious bash uploader was affected. So, wow.
I love that phrase, by the way. Malicious bash uploader.
Malicious bash uploader.
That sounds.
I'm desperately.
That sounds sinister.
I'm desperately trying not to say negative things about them. Their bash uploader was a dumpster fire, and they fucked up. I'm not sure how else to put this. Like,
yeah,
I'm looking at what their uploader script was a curl command, according to this.
What? What's wrong with curl? It's perfectly secure. As long as you don't use the -K option, right?
Did they use the -K?
Whatever. Anyway, so it basically uploaded your environment variables and potentially other stuff to a bunch of IP addresses. They have the IP addresses. They list them what they are. Not that that's going to help you, but good luck.
Because they're probably just on AWS or something.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
So the number I was looking for was hundreds.
Yeah.
The breach has impacted hundreds of clients, according to new information surrounding the incident. So that's what this article says. And that leads to our next article, which comes from the record. Rapid7 was one of those customers. I think this just came out today. I saw it on Twitter today, like while I was preparing for the show tonight. And I don't see a date on this article. Where's the date? Is there a date? May 13th, 2021. That's today, right? I think that's today. That's totally today. Windows tells me that's today.
13. So does Fedora.
Oh, good. Then we have consensus. What does Mac tell you? Is today the 13th?
Well, my iPhone says it's the 13th. Does that count?
Yeah.
I was talking to Jason since he's on the other.
It is the 13th, yes.
Look at that. We have all operating systems. All we need is someone with OS2 Warp or something.
I've tried to run Warp, and
I have it over there. I mean, look.
Well, can you turn it on and ask it what day it is? We need more data.
I have to install it first.
We'll get on that. Okay. So anyway, so apparently Rapid7 produces a product called MDR, Managed Detection and Response Service.
Yeah.
And I guess they use code dev, code to co is what we see in chat, and code cove, code cov, code whatever.
Just replace it with
code
your
cove. Your mom. Okay.
Code codpiece, man. It's code codpiece.
Apparently Rapid7 uses this tool at least with MDR, and that code has been basically affected by this breach, or not breach, but this attack.
Breach.
So
and despite what Code Cove is saying, Rapid7 is saying attackers access the source code as a result. So
yeah,
the answer is whatever this change was sent source code to that remote address. Period.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that companies are willing to admit that their source code has been accessed unless it's true. I'm not sure I understand why they would admit to that.
I mean, we admit it all the time. We give it away. You can just have our source code.
People are accessing our source code right now through FTP, Open FTP.
Through FTP. Anyway,
I have no words.
Then I win.
You win. All right. Yeah, if you can get Jason to not have any response, then then you win.
I kind of want to say something about blah 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 as a service, blah 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 blah, but I don't have a coherent thought around it anymore.
It's really just the same rhetoric.
But it sounds like it's
from us.
It's the shitty bash script that was the problem.
Yeah.
Or the bug with the Docker container.
Docker.
Now, if only they were running some sort of a container scanner, such as StackRox, that would have validated. Well, no, that wouldn't have helped. I don't know.
That's a security suite, isn't it?
You would have thought, like, I don't know. I don't know how that would catch it, because if it's building the container with the flawed thing, I just have to believe there's a way it could like check some and realize that something was awry.
Well, none. I mean, if the
I don't
tool
know.
itself is the thing that's been modified, why would it?
Blah 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 blog. Yes, yes. Arrested Development for the win. There's money in the banana stand. There's always money in the banana stand.
Okay, then.
Sweet.
Money in the banana
No,
stand.
I like Arinomi. We're having some fun.
This
via
is good.
chat.
This is good. I hope you join us for more live shows, Arinomi. This is fun. All right, and that's all the news we had for tonight. Unless you guys are like sneaking in more articles that I don't know
snuck
about.
in nothing.
That's probably good.
Nothing.
Probably good because it's already 9:30, and we've been recording for 2.5 hours. This is easily a 2-hour show, guys.
Well,
Easily.
we had it. Yeah, our break was way too long.
It wasn't 24 minutes, I'm sure.
It was pretty long, dude.
Listen, I had to
saying.
find that soundbite. I had to,
Whatever, man.
but I can't. I couldn't put it on the thing.
I
So.
almost had to start playing the EDM versions of various songs again.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
That was
Some sort of
crickets.
cricket?
It was crickets.
They sounded like crickets that were in pain.
Yay! I don't get enough use of the soundboard. I figured I may as well tonight, even if it's just random crap, right? All right, so show's over, guys.
All right, so you're gonna do all the stuff you say when we're leaving, and I make fun of us not being on MySpace.
What do you think I'm about to do?
We're not on MySpace yet.
No, we're not.
We're Live Journal.
No, not Live Journal. All right, so folks, thank you if you watched live and you stayed for this entire randomness that was the show tonight. If you missed the live show and you'd like to watch the randomness that was the show tonight, you can check us out on YouTube or Twitch. Just look for Iron Sysadmin Podcast. You can also follow us on the socials. You can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. And that's all of them, because I don't see any reason to put a podcast on Instagram.
The gram.
What about TikTok?
TikTok.
The gram.
Yeah, we can release the show in 1-minute increments on TikTok.
That would be fetch.
I don't think we'd have enough minutes between shows to get the whole thing out.
I don't think you're trying hard enough.
Oh, now the Wellerman comes. Yeah,
Marc starts
we
to
could do the
sing.
Wellerman version of the Iron Sysadmin.
Oh, totally. That would fit perfect. I hear that's a trending thing now on TikTok.
I think
Or it
we-
was
I
like
think
27 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's not trending anymore, but it's
Yeah.
still pretty awesome.
27 minutes ago, huh?
Yeah, well, that's how fast things die off on TikTok. Because nobody has an attention span long enough to sit through longer than a 1-minute video, apparently. Right, so there was something I was saying.
On TikTok.
I was gonna
singing Disney songs.
I was gonna say that
like
you can join our
comment.
Discord community, and you can make fun of how I say Discord, because
And
that's
you should.
why can I not get there to Discord? I need a bigger soundboard.
Button?
that
Bigger
has
button?
more buttons, because I have 2 pages of buttons now, and things like the creepy organ and Marvin are on page 2, and so is Discord. So it's a problem
What you need is a single button that has an AI behind it.
that knows what I want to
automatically
do,
identifies based on the conversation what you want to play.
what to play.
And now I'm going to take 2
You're
little
right.
tin cups and attach them to my headphones so that I can cry tears into them and serve them up to you.
Anyway, there's a link to our Discord community either on ironsysadmin.com or in the show notes for today's show. If you guys want to support the show via Patreon, you can find us on Patreon, of course, Iron Sysadmin Podcast. You can buy merch on Teespring,
Merch.
but nobody does, so you should go do that. Go buy merch, because
Merch.
we need more Iron Sysadmin swag in the world. So go get some. It's awesome.
Yeah, we don't care if you listen to the show. Just wear the shirt.
Just
all right?
wear the shirt.
I care if you listen.
Wear the damn shirt.
I heart all of our listeners.
Wear the shirt.
The shirt would
Anyway.
be good, or the thong. Wear the thong.
There's no thong. There could be a thong. If there's interest in an Iron Sysadmin thong,
There's interest. If you make the thong, they will wear it.
all right, guys. I think this has gone way off the deep end, and I think I should just find the ending transition screen. Any final words that don't involve thongs?
No.
All right, folks. Good night. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks.